Hello, guys, and welcome back to Casual Word and Casual Word Radio. I'm your host, Langley, and today I'm very excited. We're doing our pastor series, and this is going to be the next installment. We had Joel Kirk on a couple weeks ago, and that was fabulous. Got a lot of great feedback. And I'm very, very excited to have my friend, a colleague, someone that I've worked with closely in the community, as well as someone who is doing great work, not only in her church, but outside of her church in the community. Along with local government. She sits on several boards, the esteemed Reverend Jackie Nophlin out of Household of Faith Church here in Bristol. Thank you so much for being here. I am super thrilled about
Thank you for
this.
the invitation.
So we're going to jump right into it, guys. We have a lot to discuss, and she and I have gone way back on lots of topics, so we don't want to bore you. But let's just go ahead and talk about how long you've been in ministry yourself.
I've been in the ministry over 35 years. I started out as a missionary for 3 years, and then I moved into the pastoral position.
So that's super unique. Without going into too much detail, but what was that process like, and was it different because you were a woman?
The process was different because back in the early 90s, even laid back to the late 80s, still ministers did not accept the male ministers, or the organizations did not accept female pastors in leadership. It was good to have them as evangelists or to have them as missionaries, but to actually be in the leadership of pastoralship, they did not accept me well.
So do you think that that was something that was just because of the time that you were brought up into that leadership role, 80s and 90s? I know we were still in very much kind of and we still are to an extent, kind of a chauvinistic mentality where, men rule the world kind of thing. Do you think it was the time, or do you think that is just some sort of ideology that the church carries that women shouldn't be in leadership?
It's a little bit of both. And it's also a little bit of ignorance. The Bible speaks about women being in leadership, meaning it shouldn't have rule over man. But it's been taken out of context,
Okay.
I believe, because many female pastors have actually been called to the position, and it wasn't by a man.
Sure. So I guess then this goes back to something that we talk about all the time about, man can't tell you when you're called or how you're called or what you're called to do. And I think that that's something that the church has gotten away from. We look so much into degrees and into education and into validity that we forget that sometimes, when you're called, you have to move. And we know that in the Bible, the elders just laid hands on those who were called and sent them out. There wasn't seminary. There wasn't all these different tests and all these regulations they had to adhere to. So I think that's definitely a unique experience. Now, in being a woman, what has been your biggest challenge, I guess, as a leader in a church? I know you have your own church, which is phenomenal in and of itself, but what was it like trying to get to that point?
It was humiliating. It was a lot of tears. I would be in the same services with my colleagues. I would have to sit on the front pew. They were invited to the pulpit. They were made mention of their names and their churches, but my church was overlooked. But I persisted. I refused to give up because it wasn't just me. I represented a whole group of people that were dependent on me.
Sure.
And so that persistence is what I believe that kept us going. And also to a lot of tears and prayers. If it wasn't for the Holy Spirit, we wouldn't have been able to survive it.
Absolutely. Now, do you think that having your own flock, your own church, your own building, I mean, these are all, again, just absolutely phenomenal achievements that you have already. Did you find that was easier than trying to operate under the leadership?
Before we were led or guided to even build in a new building, we were under other organizations that had rules that said that you can't do this and you can't do that, and rules about marriage, being married twice, and rules about what you could wear and what you couldn't wear, and things of that nature. But the Lord took a little old nappy-headed girl from Buchanan Street and raised me up with everything in me, hearing these words from the elders.
Mhm.
You're going to be great in the church one day. And I used to say under my breath, That's what you think. As soon as I get of age, I'm leaving Bristol.
Yeah.
And I did that. I left Bristol. But then when he called me back, I was never coming back to Bristol. The calling was there.
Mm-hmm.
And the calling said I was coming back to Bristol. And then he said I was going to build. No money, no land, not knowing anything, but has things when God says he's going to be with you, all you have to do is stay with him.
That's it. And guys, we talk about being blessed by our obedience, and we've been talking about this for days now because of the shift that we're seeing in the atmosphere. I talk about the charge in the atmosphere that you can feel. It's almost tangible how fast that God is moving. And, this is a prime example of you might not have the answers. You might not have the resources, but you do have God.
Yes.
And you do have that faith foundation. And as long as you are following him and letting him lead, things are definitely going to work out because we serve a God that doesn't fail. So let's talk about the building process. I remember, because I was like you, I left and I was like, nope, I'm never coming to Bristol. No, it's a black hole. We're not going to do that. And I can remember when I first got back into the area, I was in Abingdon, and I was in Abingdon for a number of years. But I remember coming down and hanging with some of my friends from school, and I remember seeing the development start, and I was like, man, what's that going to be? And they're like, oh, that's my church. And your nephew and I grew up, and then he was like, yeah, man, that's Mom's church. And I was like, what? Yeah, church. So let's talk about that process. I mean,
that process was amazing. It was all God, because when we found out that the only piece of property in Bristol that was in the community was that piece of property there over on Oakview Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
VI College owned it. No money, no nothing. But we were determined. We sold things out of our homes. We had yard sales, the old fish fries.
Yeah, that's it.
And we were able to raise the money to buy that piece of property. And it was, oh God. In the meantime, I had to keep the faith believers that were supporting me, I had to keep them energized.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to keep reminding them, we have nothing, but look what God is doing through us. And they were excited about the property. The city said another piece that a building wouldn't be placed on that property because it was too small.
Mm-hmm.
But God said that 30 by 130 was going to be put on 50 by 150 property.
Yeah.
And it did. And so how did the money come about? It took labor. It took labor. It took prayer. It took fasting.
Mm-hmm.
It took faith. It took not giving up no matter what.
That's it. And we talk about works, guys. I talked about that. Sometimes the works is just planning. The works is having a plan and having a strategy and letting God help you execute that. But you can see here that this is another prime example of faith without works. They had the belief, they had the energy, they had the knowledge, but they kept working. Sometimes, God has something for us and it's already there, but we have to go and meet it.
Yes.
Like sometimes we have to go and do a thing in order for God to bless us. It's not that he's not wanting to give it to us, but sometimes he has to see that we're willing to sacrifice and work to get there.
Yes, yes.
And so I think that, sometimes we need to be reminded that although we serve an all-powerful God who can do everything, a lot of the onus is on us.
It is. And even though you're working and you're believing and you're hoping, people leave you.
Yes.
People will leave you and it will break your heart,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't have time to moan and cry. You have to keep your hands to the plow.
Yes.
Let me tell you this, halfway through the project, and you got to be living in a glass house.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot have any secrets because Satan is looking for an area or a space to expose you.
Absolutely.
Well, he exposed me. He exposed me from living in a house under domestic violence for 19 years. It was exposed. There was nothing that I could do. I took a bullet and it put me in a chair, and the enemy would buffet at me and tell me that the project is not going to be finished. Someone is going to buy the building from me. Look at you. You can't do it. But God said that I can. I kept hearing that small voice speak to me and say, you can do it. I am with you. I'll never leave you nor forsake you.
Yep.
And I trusted in those words and believed God. And we were able to get back on our feet again. We came back, and in our basement, we were still holding those services. And the people stayed with me.
And that's powerful, because what we know about society is that everyone's looking to talk about who you were. Everyone's trying to bring up all those skeletons, right? Everyone's talking about all the things you used to do, right? And they try to make it out to be that because those things used to be who you were, and those were labels that you did have at one point, that you're not qualified, that you're not worthy, that you're not going to be able to serve God. And that is simply not true, guys. So I want to say that right now to everybody who's going to be listening to this and everybody who's going to be watching this, that whatever you were is not who you are today. And it's not who you'll be tomorrow. So don't let anybody tell you that you're not called, that you're not worthy, that you can't do a thing because of what you used to do. Because I'm here to tell you, I am not the person that I used to be. And I've done a lot of horrible things in my life, but because I made a choice to follow God, and I made a choice to change my life too. Some people follow God, but never change what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
And so I want to talk about that just for a second, because there's a lot of people who come to know Christ and give their lives up, but don't change their lifestyle.
Don't change their lifestyle.
And you said that, and I mentioned it again, just I think this morning, that, you know, when you have a calling, you can't hang with everybody.
No, you can't.
Right. So, and it's not that people are bad. We're not going to get back into that. But it's just that when you have to move, and you have to move in a particular fashion, if people aren't moving in that way, they're going to be a distraction, and they're going to be an obstacle.
Allow people to come into your circle, or into your life, into your plan, that are lifting you up, that are help pushing you, that wants to be with you. Those that are against you are the ones that try to hold you back. But sometimes you need a balance.
Yes.
Every now and then you need a rock thrown at you.
Yeah, absolutely. We get too comfortable. You know, with so much. I was watching today. There's a documentary about the Challenger mission, the one that exploded in the 80s. And one of the things they talked about was NASA has seen so much success for so long that they got complacent, and then a tragedy happened. And guys, that is life. We get too comfortable because we're being successful. We get too comfortable, and we no longer have the hunger. We no longer have the strive for excellence. We no longer have the desire to please God. And all of a sudden, here comes that brick through your glass house.
Yes. I think that we can use in comparison, like when the coronavirus came through here. When the coronavirus came through here, the churches shut their doors, and the pastors began to relax because they needed a breather. Folks wasn't coming to church no way, if I may say. And it took forever. You know, it was a preaching to the choir. Sunday after Sunday after Sunday, I felt it. And then Corona came through, and I told the Lord, I said, well, wow, I get the break too. But he wouldn't let Household of Faith Community Church close their doors. We had to keep our doors open. And this is another reason that when God gives you a hunger, when he gives you something deep down inside of you, not that all of them are wrong that did close the doors, because they did do the video chats and so forth. But those that had the strength to be obedient and keep those doors open, God worked through, and to this day, right now, God is still moving in miraculous ways.
Absolutely.
Not inside the building. He's moved us outside the building. But we have a place where we can go and lay our burdens down.
That's it. And that's a great point, because, you know, something that I have a personal, I don't want to say issue with, but it's something that I've always felt very strongly about, is that we've got to be outside of the building.
Yes.
You know, we have got to get out. And it's wonderful about your church being right in the middle of the community, because for so long you see churches inviting people in and then turning their noses up to them. And that's just the nature of, you guys have all seen it. We're just talking facts here. You know, people feel it. I felt it at one point where I didn't feel welcome. I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere. And we have to start going. The Bible says that we're supposed to meet people, you know, where they are, to come as you are. And that means that it's not just about how they look. It's about where they are in their spiritual journey. And some people are not going to walk through those doors. You're going to have to go out there and meet them. And it's not about thumping them over the head with a Bible. It's about going out there and serving, right? Showing the love of Christ through your actions.
And really, too, it's about how you live it.
Yes.
Folks are watching how you live. If you love me as you say you do and mistreat your brother, then you're mistreating God.
Absolutely.
When we see those on the street that are in need, and we have something that we can give, we can help them. We can help pull them up instead of mash them down. They'll want to follow you when they see you not criticizing them and judgmental towards them. They'll want to follow you. They want to be part of something, anything. They want to be accepted
by anyone.
And you don't have to say, well, come and join my church or come on in here. You can give them Christ right where they are.
Exactly.
You can give them Christ, and you may never see them again. Or later years, you may see them again to hear their testimonies. You never know.
You don't know. And it's like one of the things that I always go back to. It's like Ezekiel. You don't have, the result is not your concern.
There it is.
We are called, we are blessed by our obedience. And that is, if something is laid on your heart to help someone, it's not your place to be like, well, if I give you this money, you better not go buy something to drink with it.
Yeah.
That's not, who cares? I mean, I don't mean to be brash, guys, but it's not, when you feel led to do a thing or to help somebody, it's not your concern and it's not your responsibility and it's not your place to determine what they're going to do with that blessing.
Absolutely.
You're supposed to do it because that's what you've been called to do. What they do with that is between them and God.
And consider this, some plant it, some water it, but God gives the increase.
Period.
So you do your part. You either planting, digging the ground, preparing the souls, getting them ready, showing them the way. Someone else comes along and water it with a little bit more wisdom, a little bit more knowledge. They begin to grow, and God gives the increase.
That's it.
That's the process.
That is the process. So when you're led to sow a seed, whatever that seed looks like, that's your chore. That's your job. Is to plant that seed. What happens after that is between what God has for that person or that circumstance, or those set of situations. That's between how God's going to move. He just asks you to be obedient and to have the faith, to trust that whatever you're going to do in that moment is going to lead to a harvest of some sort.
And I wouldn't want anyone watching or listening to think that this was an easy road. It wasn't an easy road. In order to get to where you're going, you got to go through something.
Yes.
You're going to get your heart broken. You're going to be disappointed. You're going to be miserable at times. But then joy cometh in the morning. You look back and see where God has brought you from. And you realize that you hadn't been able to get there if it had not been for the Lord.
Period.
If the Lord is not on your side, you need to just quit.
There it is, folks. That's it. And this is a good place to say that people have a misconception about the enemy as only trying to destroy. See, people don't understand that the enemy can bless you too. Those who follow him, why do you think people ask me all the time, how come these people who are doing bad things have all this stuff and have all this favor? They don't have divine favor. So let's get that laid around right now. They don't have divine favor. They have favor of the prince of this world. Okay. And that's much different, which is why you see a lot of that stuff be temporary. And
it's different.
It is
and
different.
It's dangerous because you've got to pay him back.
Yeah,
Satan is going to come back for everything that he has given to you. He will allow you to be his soldier for a certain length of time. Mm-hmm. He'll put you up and buffet you and give to you whatever it is that you think that you need. Fame, pride, all of it is wrapped up in one. And then he'll knock you off that pedestal every time.
Every time.
And he has permission to do so. Absolutely. Because you played over in his court.
That's it.
But when you submit yourself to the Lord, when you totally submit yourself to the Lord, I mean, laid, stretched out, prostrated out before the Lord and said, Father, here am I. Here am I just as I am. If you lead, I will follow.
That's it. And that's the kind of that's the kind of faith you got to have. It is blind, right? And it's not blind because you can't see where you're going per se. It is blind because that is how faith is, right? We walk by faith and not by sight. So, it's not that you are going to just close your eyes and stumble off into oblivion. It just means that this is a new life, a new path, which means you are unaware of what's going to happen. That's why you have to have that faith. And the faith says that because I want something different for myself, my family, my community, I'm going to follow Christ and I'm going to let him lead me.
Yes, several times I wanted to quit. And then after the church was erected up in all that fire and glory and people were packing in and so forth, I said, well, I guess it's time for me to quit. Ministers still wouldn't accept me as pastor, as a pastor. I said, well, I guess it wasn't supposed to be. And I stopped questioning God because I was still there. The Spirit of the Lord was still nudging me to get up and go down to 412 Oakview Avenue and do what he called for me to do. And whenever now, to this very day, I am rejected. To this very day, people disrespect me. Not that you have to call me Reverend, not that I want to be called a Reverend. I'm Jackie Nophlin. But we'll be in a setting with different ministers, and they will acknowledge this one, and they'll acknowledge that one, and they're very lowly and Jackie. And and I'm the only female pastor, black pastor here in Bristol. There's another one, but she pastors in out of town. But what I'm trying to say to you is that it doesn't matter where you female, where you male. If God put a calling on your life, no matter what it is, and you're willing to do it and go through it, go through the hard storms.
That's it.
Go through the hard places. And after a while, it'll all be over with.
That's it, guys. And don't be discouraged. I know as human beings, that's something that's going to happen to us.
Yes.
But the Bible talks about how when people do things for vainglory and for the acknowledgement of man, that is all the acknowledgement you're ever going to have. So if you want to be at the end of your road and God say, well done, good and faithful servant, you've got to stop seeking the approval of man.
Isn't that right? Isn't that the truth? Because, man can only do so much.
That's it.
God created us all. Isn't that right?
That's right.
But if we look to the hills from which cometh our help, and if we stay to the plow, if anyone listening get anything from this whole conversation, let them know this one thing, that if you stay with God, he'll stay with you. That's and it look like you losing the battle. It'll look like the war is over. But I want you to know, if you keep holding on with the last that you have, God will not fail you. He cannot fail you. I don't even know if God knows how to spell fail.
Ooh. Oh, y'all better stop before we start dancing in here. So we're going to go ahead and stop right there. That's it. We're probably going to have a number 2, but we're not going to be able to talk a lot longer. We're going to be in here shouting and hollering. So, guys, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. Real quick, want to tell everybody your services, what you guys offer. You guys are having services in person.
We're having services. I'm usually there at 10 in the morning because some kids come from the street for Sunday school.
Okay.
And 11 o'clock is the service. And we're usually out by 1:45, something in that area there. We're wanting to open up our Bible studies, but we're holding back for Wednesday night Bible studies for that. But we'll send that announcement out. But thank you for that.
Okay, absolutely, guys. So 11 o'clock is their service. We look forward to hopefully having a Bible study out. It is 412 Oakview.
412 Oakview.
Right. So you guys who are familiar with the area, you know where that is. If you're not, obviously we can get that information out to you. Ms. Nophlin is on social media. So if you have questions about anything that her church is offering, you need prayer, of course, you can reach out to her. She's on Facebook. That's a lot of how we communicate. As always, guys, you can like, share, subscribe this, send it to anybody you think that it would bless. Don't forget that I have the devotional 60 Days of Casual Word is available on Amazon. If you need to reach out to me, you can catch me at any of the social media platforms, as well as thecasualword@gmail.com. So we, again, love everybody for listening. If you have questions, concerns, if you have ideas for podcasts or for future guests, please don't hesitate to reach out. And as always, let's change the way that we think so we can change the way that we live. And until next time, stay blessed.
Wow. Wow.